Let's run a simulation. Not a fantasy map, not a sci-fi planet, but our Earth. Same atmosphere, same humans, same countries. But the continents never drifted apart. One landmass, one supercontinent. The clock starts now. At first glance, it looks like unity. Every modern country still exists. France is still France. China is still China. Brazil is still Brazil. Instead of being scattered across oceans, they are stitched together into a single colossal landmass, like borders painted onto one enormous slab of rock. No Atlantic, no Pacific, no Indian Ocean, just coastline and interior. And immediately, physics takes control. Climate scientists know the scenario well, because Earth has done this before. During Pangaea, supercontinents radically altered atmospheric circulation. With so much land far from the ocean, rainfall collapses in the interior. Studies of ancient supercontinents show massive continental arid zones driven by weakened monsoons and extreme seasonal temperature swings. So the first change isn't political, it's the air. Coastal regions remain temperate and wet, but the center of the continent, thousands of kilometers from any ocean, becomes a planetary-scale desert. Hotter than the Sahara in the summer, colder than Siberia in winter. Winds scream across empty land where clouds almost never form. The middle of the world becomes nearly uninhabitable, and humanity reacts exactly the way the fossil record says it always does. We move. Population density collapses inward and explodes outward. Hundreds of millions migrate toward the supercontinent's edges. Coastal megaregions form, not cities, but continuous urban belts stretching for thousands of kilometers. Archaeologists call this pattern coastal concentration, and it appears again and again in Earth's past whenever climate turns hostile inland. Countries that once relied on oceans for defense suddenly shared borders with everyone. Maps still say France, still say China, still say India. But geography begins erasing those labels faster than politics can update them. Landlocked countries suffer first. Trade collapses unless neighbors cooperate. Whoever controls access to the coastline controls global commerce. Not ships anymore, but rail, energy corridors, water pipelines, and data infrastructure. Borders harden. Walls grow longer than the Great Wall ever was. Not as symbols, but as desperate attempts to manage migration. Climate refugees aren't crossing seas anymore, they're walking. And there is no elsewhere, no new world, no distant continent to absorb pressure. Every problem stays on the same piece of land. Over time, geopolitics reorganizes itself around physics, not ideology. Naval power disappears entirely, a phenomenon military historians agree would fundamentally rewrite global power structures. Air power becomes dominant. Rail networks become the arteries of civilization. Whoever controls logistics controls food. Whoever controls food controls stability. This isn't speculation. Modern economic geography already shows that transportation cost, not distance, defines power. Remove oceans, and land transport becomes the single most important strategic asset on Earth. Languages begin to blur. Along major trade corridors, hybrid languages emerge, just as they did along the Silk Road. Cultural zones form gradients instead of borders. National identities still exist, but they soften at the edges. Accents shift every few hundred kilometers. Cuisine blends, music blends, religion blends, and conflict changes shape. Paradoxically, total war becomes rarer. On a single continent, supply lines are always exposed. Escalation is immediate. There is no safe rear territory. Instead, conflict becomes constant but contained. Infrastructure sabotage, cyber warfare, resource denial. Water becomes the most valuable substance on Earth. Hydrology models show that supercontinents dramatically disrupt freshwater cycles. Rivers become lifelines. Aquifers become strategic assets. Entire wars are fought over rainfall patterns, not ideology. Pollution becomes impossible to hide. On modern Earth, emissions drift across oceans and dissipate. On a supercontinent, pollution accumulates. Smog travels thousands of kilometers without dilution. Environmental damage becomes visible everywhere, forcing something humanity has historically resisted: coordination. Continental councils form out of necessity. Environmental treaties become survival agreements. Climate regulation stops being political and starts being mathematical. You don't argue with atmospheric circulation models, they just win. Technology adapts. Cities grow vertically to preserve arable land. Underground infrastructure expands to escape heat. Architecture shifts toward passive cooling and thermal mass. Designs already proven in ancient desert civilizations and supported by modern climate engineering research. By the far future of the simulation, something strange happens. Countries still exist, but power no longer flows through flags. It flows through climate zones, transport hubs, and resource corridors. Humanity doesn't unite because it wants to. It unites because separation stops being practical. One landmass removes the illusion of distance. One atmosphere removes the delusion of isolation. No elsewhere, no away. Just one world, forced to live with itself. Not a utopia, not a dystopia. A planet where consequences finally catch up to decisions. Simulation complete.